When you think of a billionaire, what's the first thing that pops into your head? Fancy cars, huge mansions, wild parties? What about smoking? The stereotype, right? The rich tycoon kicking back with a cigar. But is that really the reality for the people who built their fortunes from scratch? Well, we're about to find out, and the truth might just shock you.
All right, let's just rip the Band-Aid off and ask the big question. Do billionaires really smoke? I mean, we see it in movies and pop culture all the time, but what do the actual facts say? As we're about to see, the world of the ultra-successful is a long, long way from that old myth.
So it turns out there's this really clear pattern when you look at the super wealthy. And honestly, it's not what you'd think. It's basically a pattern of not smoking. When we dig into the habits of people who built their fortunes from the ground up, a really surprising picture starts to form about who lights up and, well, who doesn't.
And look, the evidence is it's right here. You've got Bill Gates, who's not just a non-smoker, he's actively pouring money into anti-tobacco campaigns around the world. Then you have Warren Buffett, a guy famous for his discipline, never touched the stuff. Okay, so Elon Musk is maybe the one exception, but even he just tried it when he was younger. He's not a regular smoker by any stretch. And Jeff Bezos, there's literally no verified proof he's ever been a smoker. I mean, you start to see a trend here, right? It's pretty hard to miss.
Okay, so look, does this mean that no wealthy person has ever smoked a cigarette? Of course not. There are always going to be exceptions to the rule. But what we're talking about here is that regular, habitual smoking. And that idea, among the self-made elite, it's pretty much a total myth.
So, let's zoom out for a second. Because this isn't just some weird little quirk about a few famous guys. Nope. This is actually part of a much, much bigger global picture that ties together wealth, health, and, you guessed it, tobacco.
First, you got to understand just how huge this problem is. 7 million. That's the number of people who die every single year because of tobacco. It's a massive global health crisis. But here's the kicker. This crisis doesn't hit everyone the same way.
And this chart right here, it tells the whole story. The risks from smoking, they hit lower income groups way, way harder. High income groups, much lower risk. The takeaway is pretty stark. Having money seems to act almost like a shield against the dangers of smoking.
So, that brings us to the million-dollar question, right? Why? Why is this happening? And it's definitely not just a random coincidence. It really boils down to what you could call the billionaire mindset, a whole set of reasons that pretty much explains why they just don't smoke.
Okay, so research points to 4 big reasons. First up, they're playing the long game. They're laser-focused on their health and living a long time. You can't run a global empire if you're not healthy, right? Second, higher education usually means they're way more aware of all the dangers. Third is all about discipline and image. The same drive it takes to build a company from nothing, that applies to their personal life too. And let's be honest, smoking doesn't really scream modern, successful leader. And finally, they just have access to better, healthier ways to deal with stress than lighting up a cigarette.
All right, let's bring it all home. Time for the final verdict. Myth versus reality.
So on one side, you have the myth, the stereotype, a life of just pure indulgence, vices, living for that short-term pleasure. But the reality for these self-made billionaires, it's a life built on discipline, on thinking about the future, about longevity, on setting these massive long-term goals. And a habit like smoking, it just has no place in that equation. It completely clashes with everything else.
So what's the big takeaway here? If you want to think like a billionaire, it's not about the stuff they buy. It's about adopting the mindset. It's about realizing your health is your single most valuable asset, and you just wouldn't trade the long-term future of that asset for a short-term habit.
So I gotta ask you, which of these billionaires surprised you the most? Or maybe none of them did. Was this what you expected all along? Drop a comment below and let me know what you think. It's been fun digging into this one with you.